Hello, everybody. Dr. Rick Wallace dropping in on you. I hope that everybody is. There's a lag. Hopefully, we can get this fixed. All right, looks like we're good. Uh, Hope everybody is having a good day. Hopefully, you can still hear me. Something that's definitely catching all kind of glitches. Okay, let's try this now. What the world? Of course. Let's see. All right. Hopefully that gets it straightened out. Hopefully we won't have any other problems. Look, hopefully you're getting off to a great start. Let me get right to what I want to talk to you about. First and foremost, look, uh, let me say this. We are still in the midst of a fundraiser. The way that you can support the work we're doing is going to be in the description box. Show some love for what we do in the number of different ways that we do it. If you are new to the channel or new to who I am and the work I do, there's a link to our official website at the Odyssey Project so that you can see the work that we have done, the work we continue to do. While I'm on it, before I get on this, if there's anybody in the Chicago area who can help a female who is in need of temporary and ultimately permanent housing, please email me at CEO at rickwallacephd.link. We need some assistance in that area. I've been trying, and it seems like a bunch of red tape, but I really do want to help this person, and they're in need of immediate support. So if you're in the Chicago area and you can assist in any way, please, if you know somebody in the Chicago area who can assist, we need your help. Again, show some love and support. The way that you can support us is in the description box. All right, let's talk about the war on Black love. I shared this, about maybe a week ago, or maybe a little over a week. I was watching a video, and Tank, the R&B artist, was talking about something. He made a very powerful point in how Black love, uh, the songs about Black love and R&B don't get the bandwidth of the negative songs, the misogynistic songs, the songs that talk about drug use, and we're talking about music industry period. But the songs about love, and he says that love is the greatest threat to the enemy, and I believe so. I definitely believe that. Well, I know for a fact, unity scares the hell out of them. To see us together, to see us caring about one another, to see us moving in a unified direction towards something scares them. J. Edgar Hoover, when asked what was the greatest threat to national security, it was Black unity, straight out of his mouth. Well, I'm telling you that there's a force, and Black unity is birthed out of the Black home. You don't get one of the biggest problems that we have faced over the last 30 years is attempting to introduce uh, values, interests, and principles that are conducive to Black empowerment to adults who did not experience it, were not familiar with it, were not aware of it as children. Why? Because that's not what's being presented and pushed in the Black community. Uh, Fast money, getting the bag, uh, shining, being lit, turning up, and every other uh, thing that you can think about in the past that uh, distracted us from true empowerment of self, true empowerment of our home, true empowerment of our family was pushed upon us. And there has been an ongoing push to divide the Black home and to attack Black love, because Black love is the foundation of Black empowerment. You can't build power on top of anything else, because it is the love that holds us together. It is the love that will drive us to sacrifice. It is the love that will drive us to put ourselves aside and look at the bigger picture. If we cannot sustain love on the most elementary level, which I believe is the marriage, we're in trouble. And so there is a push, and in many ways, and this is happening sociologically, it's happening academically, it's happening politically, and there is a big, huge spiritual push to destroy the Black home. And it has been very successful over the years, and we have participated in our own demise. We have become victims and fools of folly because of it, because we have not been careful. That you see it in so many different ways, the division, how we have lost ourselves in arguments on social media about who pays what in the home, instead of looking at who builds what in the home and who holds the home together. Is the man operating on the principles of protector, provider, promoter, priest, and prophet? Is the woman operating on the force of her spiritual wealth, in her spirituality, in her ability to affirm? And nothing is more powerful than a man affirmed by his woman. When he is affirmed by his woman, he will go to the ends of the world to uphold what has been affirmed in him. The problem is there is a great deal of force moving against the Black home, and we in often ways fall folly to it, because hey, there is the over romanticization of love. So then there are those, if they're not being wined and dined and triple dipped in roses and chocolate, then something's missing. And then there's the one that's over commodified in the idea. And so if they are not being showered with material gifts and immersed in the depths of elaborate finance, then something's wrong. And then there's the man who has been bombarded with the idea of submissiveness. So if she isn't folding at his every whim, then he has a problem with it. Then there's the one that's been caught up in the idea of she must be a 9 or a 10 if I make XYZ. And so now he's focused on the external pulchritude or external aesthetics instead of looking deeply into who she is as a person. And then we get into these situations and we have these unrealistic expectations presented by a system that wants you to fold because you're unhappy, wants you to fold because he or she is not measuring up, wants you to fold because that's obviously got to be something better. And then some of it is pushing that it's not going to be within your fold. You're going to have to go outside of your race to find happiness. You're going to have to go outside of your race to find beauty. You're going to have to go outside of your race to find wealth. All of these different things. And what we don't understand is that we're supposed to be building. We have young 22-year-old men out here trying to do things on their own, that they should have brothers coming together and helping them, and a woman on their side encouraging them and connecting together to build together. That's what the syncing of masculine energy and feminine energy is all about. It is about taking what you have as a man, her taking what she has as a woman, coming together, merging that and syncing it, creating synergy, which is powerful on a level that's greater than the power of each individual. So that's where we are being blown away at, because we are being we're being dragged out of the house, ran out of the house, pushed out of the house, tricked out of the house. Everything looks good. I'm gonna tell you, the grass always seems greener. That is going to be the case. Why? Because you can't see the poop and the crap from where you're standing. So it always looks better. There is no perfect situation. You build. This is what Black men are being told. Before you can ever go take a wife, you got to have all your crap together. You got to be on your A game. You got to have all of this. You got to have all that. And that's not what's being taught in other groups. Other groups are taught you build it together, because there are going to be things that she's going to be stronger in than you are. There are going to be things she's going to naturally be capable of doing better than you. And together, you're going to bring what you are, and you're going to grow together. One of the hardest things to do is to go out and do something on your own, all on your own, and then have somebody come in and treat them as your equal. No matter what they're bringing to the table, that's why you build together, and you don't build alone. That's something else that they do. So even if the black man is in the house, he's struggling to hold the house together and do everything that he's expected to do in the home by himself. Why? Because there's no unity among black men. And there's this idea that if you're married, you don't need help. That if you're married, you should have it all figured out. And then there are people who are willing to capitalize on any slip ups that you have. So you can't have a bad game. You can't have a bad situation. So now the pressure is on. There's a war on black love, and we're losing because we're allowing everyone except those of us who are actually going to benefit from black love to define it for us. We want the women overly submissive without even understanding what submission is. We want the men to be six-figure earners when the society has set us up to be the lowest earners on the male spectrum. We are earning at a median, black men income median in the U.S. is $44,000. But if you look at social media, everybody up and down there is paying all the bills. Now you can make $44,000 and pay all the bills if you have an understanding in your home with your woman that we can't splurge, that we're not going to be taking trips every other month, that we're not going to be in Saks, we're not going to be in LV and Gucci. You can do that. But the idea that you're looking at probably less than 6% of black men are six-figure earners, but everybody's paying all the bills. I am a believer that should be your goal. Your goal should be to hold your family down. But that can't be what defines you as a man in your home. To me, what defines you and your man at home first is, can you protect your family? Can you protect your family physically? Can you protect your family spiritually? Are you a priest in the home? Are you covering everybody in your home spiritually? And that's something that you have to understand. That's something that has to be taught. What is your connection with the Most High on a level that you are covering them? Because see, that's a spiritual warfare that nobody wants to talk about. We're starting to really nail. We had Dr. Amos Wilson. We had Dr. Joy DeGraff. We had Dr. Naeem Akbar. We had Dr. Francis Cress Wilson. And I would like to think that also myself, Dr. Howard Stevenson, and some others have given you plenty to contemplate as far as the psychology of black love, the psychology of black unity, the psychology of black power. But we're not talking enough about the spiritual elements and the spiritual components. Why? Because that principle of movement has been devalued among us. And so now we are all about emotional experiences, and we have no true spiritual force and spiritual power on which to stand and move and operate and do the things that are necessary in order to sustain our households. And what happens? We begin to crumble. We begin to become dissatisfied. We begin to become disenfranchised, and we live in a world that makes it very easy to walk away from what we were supposedly held together to pull together and hold together and do together. Now we live in a world where literally you can be married and you can go before a court and say, we're just not getting along, irreconcilable differences, and be released from the marriage. That's how easy it is now to move outside of a covenant. Let me tell you something. You're not going to be in something over 3 or 4 or 5 years and trouble not come. You're not going to be in something over 3 or 4 or 5 years and you're not going to find yourself not on the same page. You're not going to be in something over 3 or 4 or 5 years where there's not going to be a period of difficulty and frustration. That's why it's a covenant, because it's supposed to be built on the commitment to the covenant and not your feelings. One of the things that you've always heard me say is that I don't handle my wife based on my feelings. And that's still true today with everything that's going on right now. I still do not handle my wife based on my feelings. I handle my wife based on my responsibilities, based on the covenant and the vows and the oath I took with God. That's how I handle my wife. And sometimes you get in these situations in your life, in your marriage, in your situation where you are going to have to refer to the covenant. But we don't live in a world that demands that of us. When I was writing When Your House Is Not Home, which is a book on conflict in marriage, years ago, it's my fourth book. I'm 24 deep now. But when I was writing that, I consulted a lot of people from a lot of different cultures. I didn't just talk to young folks. I didn't just talk to Christians. I talked to Arabs. I didn't just talk to blacks. I talked to whites. I talked to people who had divorced within weeks of being married. I talked to people who got annulments. I talked to people who's been married 50 plus years. I think the oldest couple was 75 years. I talked to different cultures about arranged marriages. And what I found is the cultures who have the strongest commitment to marriage are the ones who build strong and have longer and more impactful forces on the perpetuation of their value system through their children and through their grandchildren and through their great-grandchildren. Because when the average person in the West is sitting up saying, I can't do it anymore, it's not an option for them, because one of the worst things you can do in many of these cultures is get a divorce. It's one of the most embarrassing things for the family. It puts shame on the family. And so what happens is that both sides of the family are coming together when there's a problem, and they're investing in the healing and in the problem solving and all of the other things. That doesn't happen here. What I found in my research here is that when that starts to be a problem in the house, there are more people willing to tell you you don't have to stay than trying to help you figure it out. That's a problem. And you have to ask yourself, where does it come from? You have to ask yourself, where does this lack of commitment to loving one another come from? I'm not talking about the ooh-ah feeling. I'm not talking about romance. See, romance didn't even enter into marriage into the 13th century. Before the 13th century, marriage wasn't about the ooh-ah feeling. Marriage was an arrangement. Marriage was an organized way of protecting family wealth, an organized way of protecting and perpetuating family values. It was a lot of things, but it wasn't the ooh-ah, I'm over my head and over, head over heels in love and all this. I have no problem with the feeling, but see, what I'm going to tell you is feelings are a part of emotions, and emotions don't have endurance. There are going to be times you're not going to feel a certain way. What do? There are times, see, the thing is, with what I do for a living, with what I do in my passion, with what I do in the community, that's driven by something so much greater than what I feel, because there are days I don't feel like doing it. And especially with everything that's going on with me now, I don't feel like doing it. But I get up every day and I answer the bell, because there are people depending on me. My legacy is depending on me standing up, showing up, and being what I am supposed to be to those who need me. And it's not dependent upon whether I feel like it or not. But we are allowing this to happen. And then we've got this entire system that is governing how we engage each other, how we see each other. There is an aesthetic, an image that is consistently perpetuated that is directly in alignment with the perpetuated stereotypes that the world wants. Those in power want the world to see when it comes to us. Violent, criminal-minded, disrespectful, hateful, and many others, heavily given to drugs, womanizers, men haters. All of these things are what they study perpetuate, and you spend your time watching it, and the next thing, what happens? You've got it in your mind. There are no good men out there. There are no good men out there. So even when you have one, you side-eye. Then the man is sitting up looking like, well, she just want my money. That's all she wants. She don't love me. She want my money. Or she want this. And so everything is about the bag. But then when you got the bag and you get her, you still side-eyeing her because you think she came for the bag. So you didn't work on, in many instances, you didn't work on the other things that were important. How much of a protector are you? How much can she lean into you when she's having a bad day or when she's fearful about something? And what are you doing to ease that fear? What are you doing to create an environment of safety and security where she feels safe? That's part of being a man as well. It's not just about what you have in your bank account. It's not about what you can buy her. It's about what you are giving her with your presence. What does your presence mean to her? And so on both sides, we are bombarded with negative information. We are bombarded with ideas of hostility and hatred. We are constantly being fed negativity about ourselves. And so there's this growing force of self-hatred. And then we are asked to love one another. We're asked to be committed to one another. We're asked to fight through some of the most difficult and challenging times together with one another. And it simply isn't in us. And it's on purpose. And it's going to be up to us to deal with this enemy on the inside that's literally ripping us to shreds. There's a war against Black love. There's a war against Black unity. The Black family has been disintegrating for decades. And when we get to that, there will not be a foundation on which to build Black empowerment. We are being robbed of the things that hold us together. We have become immensely selfish in our dealings, self-centered in our movements, and you can't build collective power through individualism. We have become so much about self that the idea of sacrifice simply is not something we want to deal with. But we expect empowerment without sacrifice. We expect empowerment without struggle. We expect empowerment without long suffering and patience. We expect empowerment without the ability to push through the most difficult times while we're building, while we're growing, while we're loving. And what are we teaching our children? When you get tired, quit. And we wonder why we've got entitlement running through the veins of our children right now. Because they haven't been built and prepared to work for and fight for what it is they want. They're going to expect somebody to give it to them. And when they don't get it, they're going to throw a tantrum. They're going to express their discontent. They're going to do everything except put on their boots, square their shoulders, and go out and make it happen. Because they haven't seen it. They haven't seen fortitude. They haven't seen consistency. They haven't seen the willingness to stand in and go the distance. They have not seen what it takes to really, truly make something work. Black love is worth fighting for. Black love is worth living for. Black love is worth dying for. Black love has to be a foundational principle and a foundational reality. If we're talking about Black empowerment, we've got to get our minds out of this idea. Let me tell you something. Let's go back to the whole thing that it drives me nuts when I see it, because I am a student of reality. I study. I am a human behavioral expert. That's what I do, literally, and I can say that with confidence. I put 30 years of my life into understanding human behavior. So let me tell you. All right. So here's what happens. I'm gonna tell you how easy it is to drive division. One of the most common conversations on social media is, does he pay all the bills or do you split 50-50? I was talking to somebody about this the other day and they were on the same page. And it was actually someone that I have a great deal of respect for. And they were talking about it. And here's the problem with that. It's an immediate divider. It's a wedge right off the bat. It's a wedge, and you don't even see the wedge because you're looking at the idea. Why? The idea is being pushed that a real man pays all the bills. I think that a man's responsibility is to be a provider. It should be natural. It should be something in him. But you also have to be willing to take into consideration the environment and the experience and the history. The black man starting in the 50s was targeted to be underemployed, unemployed, and not able to do. Before that, black men didn't even need a high school education to go out and get a job in a warehouse, in a plant, in a factory, and earn good money and be able to take care of his family. Most black women in the 40s were at home. What happened? Well, the war happened first. That opened the door for women to go into the workforce. Well, then that men came home. But here's what happened. Jobs were pulled from underneath black men. Let me tell you something. If you got black women at home and you got, say, a 6% unemployment rate, you got women at home, period. But let's say you got black women at home, keep it simple. You got black women at home. And all of a sudden, there's a movement to bring black women in the workforce. And the unemployment rate actually starts to go up. And the people becoming unemployed are primarily black males at a rate higher than anyone else. It's happening across the board, but it's definitely happening with black males. And black women are actually getting an increase in employment because up until that point, they hadn't been in mass numbers in the workforce. Guess who are replacing the black men? Now you're starting to see, even though black women as a collective don't out earn black men, probably a couple of thousand a year right underneath there. I think at 40, 41,000, maybe 42,000 median income. They're the closest in earning in median income earning among all races. They are the closest females to their men. Other men are significantly higher earners than their women. Black women are right there. There's a reason for that. And so instead of looking at, okay, can we build together? Now, here's the other part of that. When I am judging a person based off of initially coming into a relationship on whether or not they can solely pay the bills, I ignore their potential and I ignore the opportunity to invest in them so that at some point they can. And so I never get to see them reach their potential because I'm expecting them to already be there. And I don't see the ability to build together so that we grow together, that we get strong together, that we move towards something together, that we build trust, that we build the ability to stand together. So everybody is expecting somebody to be already ready, shaped, and formed to come together. So what happens then is you have a lot of young black males trying to get there because there are a lot of young black males, and I can tell you because I work with them, that really truly want to be husbands. But they believe that I have to be able to take care of everything. So what happens now? Those men don't take wives early. So now you've got a bunch of black women who are actually coming from underneath the covering of their father at home, if they're lucky, and out there in the world, uncovered, going through the world and doing things on their own for years before a man finally reaches a point where he can say, now I can hold a whole family down by myself. Now he's out there looking. But the problem is I had to do it by myself. So now I'm bringing somebody into something that I built, something that I fought hard for, something that I struggled for, something that I did. And now I've got to question their motive for being here. Is it just because I can make them a kept woman? And what are they bringing to me that is of value that makes me better? Now, again, I am a person who strongly believes that a man should be a provider. I differ from a lot of people in how he gets there. Number one is he should have men around him that are older than him that are preparing him well early before he gets to adulthood. He should understand what he's working towards. He should understand how he's going to move and what he's going to do. He should be underwritten whenever possible. We're expecting our boys to get started from scratch every time. Why? Because nobody's building generational wealth. So instead of passing it down and saying, I'm giving you a head start like Timmy and like Cody and like Amar and Habib and everybody else, and you know, in Asians and everybody else, underwritten, you know, working at, you know, working for my the Asian, working for my mom at their cleaners, working for my mom at their real estate brokerage, you know, whatever, the construction company. Everybody is being underwritten, but we are starting our men off at scratch, and we're giving them this goal that they have to hit before they can even be considered to be men, and they're striving for it. They're frustrated, and then those who are relentless eventually get there, but they get there and they're sort of jaded in a way, or they become arrogant because they've been commodified to a level that the money matters more than anything else. So if they got the bag, they don't see an equal. They see an opportunity to make someone submit in their definition of submission without really truly understanding what it means. And so we have all these screwed up situations where we're steady destroying each other. And nobody's seeing the ability and the power we have to come together and join together. And like Tank said, Black love is a problem. It's a threat. It's what they want to attack. My concern is that we are in way too many ways participating in our demise by how we handle Black love, how we handle the Black family, how we handle Black marriage, how little respect we give to it, how little commitment and sacrifice we submit to it. And it is showing up on the ledger. It is showing up on the ledger, and it is not looking good. And what are we going to do? That's what I mean, that is a major issue. And I'm going to keep hammering it for as long as I have to, because we are failing in ways unimaginable. Look, how we end up in this thing is going to be up to us. I don't care what you say about white supremacy, like Dr. Umar Johnson said about 7 years ago. White supremacy is absolutely nothing without Black compliance. The problem is we're being compliant in areas that are highly destructive to us. We are moving about in a way that is so selfish that we are destroying one another, and we still don't get it. I hope that in my lifetime that we see the possibilities that are before us that allow us to become great and strong, autonomous and independent. And I'm challenging anyone who watches this to stand up, look at yourself in the mirror, and ask, are you participating in the demise of your people? And if you are, it's time to check it. We've got to learn to stand together. We've got to learn to love one another in a way that we have not in so long. And if we ever can do this, there's no stopping us. On that note, I'm going to get ready to get out of here. As I have said at the beginning, we are still doing the fundraiser. The If you believe in the work we're doing, go into the description box, click the link, and show some love. If you're one of those who prefer to do it via Cash App, the organization's Cash App handle is also in the description box. But whatever you do, take what I'm saying to heart and start asking yourself some real serious and pointed questions about where you are right now. That's my heart I'm giving to you. That's my experience I'm giving to you. That's my expertise. I hope that it lands on the hearts and minds of people who are really ready to take it and do something special with it. On that note, I'm getting out of here. You guys have an unbelievable day.